So Biden drops out of the presidential race after Democratic revolt following disastrous debate, best interest of the country. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe this is happening. It is unprecedented. I've never heard of such a thing. So President Biden made the historically rare decision Sunday to drop out of the 2024 presidential race less than 4 months after being declared the Democratic Party's presumptive nominee and just weeks after a dismal debate showing it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, the 81-year-old embattled commander-in-chief wrote in a remarkable letter he addressed to my fellow Americans. And while it has been my intention to seek reflection, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. Wow, that is crazy. Like, I literally am just like speechless. So they said, I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision, Biden wrote. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. It says trustee with a Y. I don't know if he had that type or a New York Post. And then it says the president's exit from the race months before Election Day comes just weeks after a debate performance, again, another typo, against former President Donald Trump, in which the incumbent appeared infirm and was at times incoherent, alarming Democratic donors and strategists. They actually said donors started pulling their money away as well. And I think the money always talks, especially when it comes to our capitalist society of America. And so I don't even think that it really had anything to do with anything else other than he probably just didn't even have the money to run his campaign. So it says it also follows an assassination attempt on Trump during a campaign rally in Pennsylvania earlier this month. Biden's withdrawal could set off a free-for-all for the Democratic nomination for president, although Harris has been considered the obvious choice to replace him as the candidate. And yes, based on just the rumblings and some of the sources that I've seen across the internet, apparently they are already looking at a few candidates who are significantly younger. And it doesn't really work that way that Kamala Harris would be automatically filling that spot as much as people think, because he's not stepping down as president of the United States. He's dropping out of a race. He's actually still technically the president. So that means that they actually can still bring in other nominees and other candidates to run for president and for the Democratic Party. So a lot of people just assume, it's going to be Kamala, but that's not necessarily the case. The president cannot, by decree, select his replacement atop the 2024 ticket. So, and that's really, I'm happy to hear that, because if you're selecting our replacement, you're essentially just null and void the whole quote unquote democratic voting process and it being for the people, by the people. Like, you can't just sit there and be like, I'm just going to choose this person by yourself, especially when people don't even trust him to make good decisions. But even still, just like we had a primary to decide that he was going to be our Democratic nominee, we have to vote for the new person. It can't just be automatically Kamala Harris or, him choosing who he wants to go in his place. So the nearly 4,000 delegates pledged to Biden could have only days to rally around a new candidate, as a virtual roll call to formally nominate Biden was expected to be finalized by August 7th. Harris, California Governor Gavin Newsom, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, and former First Lady Michelle Obama have all previously been floated as possible replacements for Biden. Harris, age 59, is widely seen as the front-runner because of legal constraints over the transfer of the Biden-Harris campaign's war chest, but many Democrats doubt her viability in the general election, given her favorability ratings often lag behind even Biden, as most people do not like Kamala Harris. When she was running for president, she had to drop out early because she was just bleeding campaign funds. There has been constant rumblings in the White House and in the media that she does not get along with even her own staff. And I know as an African-American woman that in our community, she is not someone we like. She doesn't actually technically belong to the African-American community, even though she tries to pretend that she's a part of it. Her dad is actually from Jamaica, and her mother is, of course, Indian. So she does not even belong to our community, and that isn't even of itself that much of it. That isn't even of itself that much of an issue. The fact that we don't really even like her, we don't trust her. She's never showed any kind of allegiance to African Americans. It's simply what most people do in America is they use our plight as African Americans because of the slavery and the racism and all the things that we're still dealing with in this country from our oppression. People use that to get themselves up, to push themselves up higher. And Black people are not stupid. We literally have learned from our own history and watching, reading, studying our own history. We see what people are doing. We see that people use us to level themselves up higher, get themselves on a higher level. But then once they get up to the top, they just forget about us. So we're not going to continue to do the same thing and expect a different result, because that would be the definition of insanity. We are learning from the past mistakes of our ancestors and our parents and people before us, and we don't want her. She has shown time and time again, she's said out of her mouth that she doesn't have any plans to do anything specifically for Black people, but this country does something specifically for everyone all the time, even people who are illegal. So no, you're not going to be we do not choose her as our nominee. I'm pretty sure no one's going to back that. So, they said Biden opted to throw in the towel after a series of embarrassing revelations that senior party leaders had no confidence in his ability to win. I don't even know where that came from. It's funny because I think that information leaked and wasn't supposed to get out. Amid a mounting mutiny among rank and file congressional Democrats, fearful that they too would lose if Biden went down in a landslide loss. Former House Speakers Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat of California, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat New York, they really need to get term limits. I'm so sick of saying these people's names, were among those who warned Biden about bleak polling data, while former President Barack Obama reportedly confided in allies that he had lost confidence in Biden's path to another term. I didn't hear that part. I thought he actually was speaking out in support of him. He should have never been president, if we really want to be honest. Biden stole the election because he was chosen. He didn't steal the election, but he stole the nomination to be the Democratic Party candidate for presidential candidate, because we didn't choose him. When they got stupid, sleazy snake oil, fish fry Jim Clyburn to vouch for him in South Carolina, and then all the old heads, Black people, ran and just voted because they saw Jim Clyburn with his fish fry. I mean, it's like he has not done shit for your district for centuries. It feels like centuries, but it's decades. He's been sitting his ass, getting fat in office for decades, and he does nothing for his district. It's crap. You can look it up. You can look at the scores. You can look at the district that he's over. And they say one side that's white is doing well and prosperous, and the Black side is just completely neglected and destitute. And it's vile. It's absolutely disgusting. It's like you are up there to represent these people who keep putting you in office ignorantly. And of course, in our schools, we really don't learn much about government. So, a lot of millennials have just started getting way more involved into politics. I would like to attribute a lot of that to, what's her name? She's Brown. Her last name is Brown, I believe. She's on YouTube. And she started an organization, but then it got crazy and fell apart or whatever, like they usually do. But I credit her to educating us a lot about government, because a lot of us did not get a real good lesson. I remember my 12th grade government class, the teacher just let us just do whatever we wanted to do all day long. He didn't teach us anything about government. And even before that, I kind of glazed over and ignored a lot of education, like social studies. I hated social studies because it usually talked about slavery and made Black people look like we were just stupid and, didn't really have any anything great, any greatness about us. And it just felt like the government wasn't for us. It was a bunch of white people, a lot of times old white males. And it just seemed like it was something that, why am I having to listen to this? They don't do anything for us. They never have. And we're not even included in that group. They don't ever nominate, vote us into office. And even if they do, it's so few of us. I mean, it just never seemed like anything I should have any interest in. And I personally did not really take any kind of notice to politics until Obama ran for president. I was in the military as well, so I was kind of not even home to be voting. My parents never talked about voting as well. I don't even know if they were voting. But no one talked about it in my house. No one talked about government, nothing. They weren't like, I voted, you all need to vote. No one said anything. They didn't teach us how to vote properly, nothing, because they weren't even voting properly. So, once the millennials got more involved, I feel like that's when things really start to change. And then Gen Z is also very involved in politics at a much younger age than millennials were. And I think that's partly because of the internet. They have a lot more information at their fingertips. But I also think it's because they're watching their parents be extremely involved. We're marching, we're activists, we're fighting for a better tomorrow for our children and for ourselves. But a lot of us know we may not even be alive when the things we're fighting for come to fruition, and we don't care. We want things to be better. So I feel like that's partly, like I know for my children, I made sure all of them are registered to vote, and I talked to them about who they should select. And my 17-year-old has always been into politics for a very long time, probably since he was like a little kid, very intelligent, and I think he's actually considering going into politics. I could see him definitely running for office and being a politician. He's very intelligent, loves politics, is a great kid, and will just fight for this country to be an amazing place, I'm sure, because he's also watched his mother do the same thing for the last 20, 30 years. But this is just an incredible time. I really hope we get a good candidate. Like, I feel like this is the beginning, and I pray that they stop taking the power from the people and let them hear our voices for once, and try to get our country back to a better country and in a better direction. And I think for that reason, I like Governor Gavin Newsom. I don't even know if he's really a realistic choice. I also like the idea of a much younger candidate running, because I think we need new blood in the government, and especially at the federal level. I'm tired of like this really old ancient people making decisions for us. They're so far removed, especially the ones who've been sitting in office for 30, 40, 50 years. They are wealthy. They've gotten rich off of Americans' backs, and they have no clue what we're going through. They don't care. And they're just completely clueless, like what we need. We need mothers, single mothers in Congress. We need Black people in Congress. We need young people in Congress. You know, we need a plethora of people who actually represent America. You know, no more of just like one small percent of the population being represented. We need a whole rainbow of people. And speaking of that, let me continue really quickly because I wanted to talk about something else really fast. So this is the president launched his re-election bid in April 2023, asking voters to give him another 4 years to help him finish a job. Biden, who at the time was already the oldest president in American history, opted to seek a second term despite plunging support. See, they just never listened to us. He should have never been president to begin with. He was already too old. Nobody liked him. Before Jim Fishfire Clyburn came and vouched for him, because he knew that for the older Black voters, all they care about is symbolism and optics. Like, they don't care about any real tangibles. They don't care about policy. They don't know how to vote properly, so they're voting very stupidly. And they saw Jim Fishfire Clyburn and remembered all his fish fries, and they just ran out and voted for Biden. And they also thought about Obama, who didn't really do much for Black people either. And just all the symbolism, they were seeing a Black congressperson, we're seeing a Black president. And I think they just been trained, Black, 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 Black. If they just see a Black person sitting up there, that's who they go for, despite the fact that this person has nothing in store for us. A lot of times they're not even part of our actual, ethnicity and our culture, our group, our history, our lineage. And so they don't even care what we've been through, because they've never it doesn't have anything to do with them. So, because even with Obama, his dad is from Africa and his mom was a white woman. So what link does he have to us? It's like they have to shoehorn their way in and try to act like, oh, I understand your plight because someone called me the N-word once. That's not the same thing. It's just not. Your experience is different from mine. You lived a better life, and you're looked at differently. I don't care what he says. He's not an African American. And yes, you have racist, ignorant, poor white people, or even ones who have money, who knows, who cares, who are being hateful, but that's just because they're hateful and they hate everything that's Black. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's an quote unquote African American. There's actually programs and systems to specifically harm African Americans from ever being successful, like what they're doing right now, taking away the DEI, the affirmative action, the CRT, keeping it out of the schools. Like, there's always actively an approach to keep African Americans oppressed, always, 24/7. There's always a boot on our damn necks to not let us ever rise. And they always sit there and tell us with their narcissistic asses to pull our boots up by the bootstraps, while they're sitting there actively pushing us down with their knee, like George Floyd. So miss me with the bullshit. And even if they're keeping, like, for instance, when they're keeping CRT out of the schools, that's not Kamala Harris's history. That's not Barack Obama's history. So what do they care what we've been going through? They can't even relate to it. So yeah, the black people ran and voted for Biden. I was livid. I was in Maryland, still had not even gotten a chance to vote in the primaries before they chose Biden. So yeah, that's what happened there. And next thing you know, Biden is our presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. Um, and I voted. I was a Republican that year, and that's why. That's partly why a lot of black people are leaving the Democratic Party as well and voting Republican. Because honestly, let's be real, we only have a two-party system. Even though they say, "Oh, we're democracy," and you can have like all these people, all these parties. We know damn good and well money talks. And another thing that's completely unfair is they do not let people really join the races. They do not. They don't let all the different parties show what their platforms are. They don't give them any real support. And then money is being used to undergird other certain specific candidates, even from people who are using taxpayer dollars. In the States, organizations will throw their money behind a candidate that they want to do their bidding or whatever. And they totally ignore or shut out all the other people running. So it's next to impossible. One, a lot of people don't even know who all is running because of that reason. They don't know how to find them. They don't know what they stand for. So how are you going to go vote for them? You don't know who they are. You're surprised they even make the ballot. So yeah, they chose Biden. I was pissed and I voted Republican that year. And I have been a Republican ever since until they get their heads out their asses. And I honestly think that there should be more black people that get into the Republican Party. Why do we allow white racist people to have an entire party to themselves? That is so stupid. It's not even funny. And I'm waiting for black people to get out of their feelings and vote strategically and think like a real strategist here. Think like a real person who has some intelligence, who actually wants to have this country be more to our benefit. And that's only going to happen if we're in both parties. So, sitting here always just not saying, oh, well, just completely, like disregarding the Republican Party because you quote unquote think they're racist. Both parties are racist. Are you kidding me right now? So we need to get out of that whole like optics symbolism crap. We need to get over it. Vote for the person that's going to most likely give you what you want, which is reparations. The people who are going to benefit you the most, like getting rid of illegal immigration, getting rid of them supporting people above us, the people who actually built the country. That's getting really old. It's getting really old. You have people who are still the descendants living here of the people who built America. Point blank, period. We were only a white and black nation in the beginning of America. So it was only our ancestors, the African Americans' ancestors, who came over as, of course, Africans, and there was the white people. And if people can trace their ancestor back, like I'm from Jamaica, Jamaicans came over here, whatever they want to, however they want to do it, that's on you. You create your own claim. But the bottom line is, I do not like to see people coming over constantly, all these new immigrants coming over and just basically standing on top of the people whose ancestors built the country, and we're still here. We've never been repaired, and we're still like dealing with them, continuing to chip away at any type of opportunities they've given us. When in reality, I'm like, you know what? Fuck your opportunities, fuck your programs. Just give us our check so we can either leave this country or do for ourselves like we've always done. We're tired of this racism. We're tired of white people doing the most because of their jealousy, their insecurity, being intimidated of us. They're literally doing the same thing they've done with Black Wall Street right now. It's just behind closed doors, sort of. But black people are not paying attention, and black people are not getting the message that we need to be doing a lot of things very differently. So they said Biden at the time, with polls at the time showing that the majority of Americans, including Democrats, did not want Biden to reprise his role in the Oval Office for another 4 years. We didn't want him to begin with. So the president's 15 months on the campaign trail did not alleviate voter concern about his age and mental acuity. A second term would have seen Biden possibly reach the age of 86 before the end of it. We didn't even think he would honestly live through the second term, let alone the first, to be honest. They said there's literally some protesters outside telling Biden to drop out, and their banner here says "Pass the torch," period, because that's another issue I think with boomers. They struggle a lot with passing over power, like giving power over to the next generation, which would be the Gen Xers and mainly the millennials. And they're fucking up our country because they refuse to let go of the torch. it's like you overstayed your welcome. And we're to the point now where we're like, do people need term limits? Because this is ridiculous. Like, you're so wealthy that you're always able to run these shady ass campaigns because no one else knows who else is running, because you're overshadowing them with your commercials and everything. That's why I'm actually happy what happened with in Maryland occurred, because there was another guy running Trone who actually was like a billionaire or something, or a multi-million. Like, he had a lot of money, and he was running against Angela also Brooks, which was, she's pretty much just like she's from this she's from Maryland, I think PG County, and so she's just kind of like a grassroots candidate who worked her way up, and people know her for her work. I don't know who Tron is from a can of paint. I'm like, where did this guy come from? And she's always been in the community. She's always been working hard for the community and for her district and for her constituents. So yeah, she won. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be about who has the most money. I will drive around and see her signs, and they were so much smaller than David Trone's big ass signs. And it was so funny because after she won the election this year, someone like kicked the sign. Someone like destroyed David Trone's signs. Like, they were like on the ground, they were destroyed, torn up, and I thought that was very fitting. And I loved it, mainly not because of race, because I don't care about that. It was more about the fact that it goes to show once again that big money does not talk when it comes to people wanting what is right for our nation and what is right for our families and ourselves. Another time that happened was with Bloomberg when he tried to run for president, and his money didn't do anything either. You can't buy people's votes. People are out here struggling. They're suffering. And there's a lot of people who see a great injustice done by America that still has not been made right. You're not buying my vote. So let me continue. Special Counsel Robert Hur noted in his February report on Biden's handling of classified White House documents that he opted against recommending criminal charges against the president, in part because a jury might view Biden as an elderly man with a poor memory. In an interview with Hur, Biden couldn't recall the years he served as Obama's vice president or when his son Biden died, according to the scathing report. A New York Times Siena College poll released one day before his doomed debate with Trump showed that 70% felt Biden was too old to be commander-in-chief. And people are making jokes about Biden, but I really don't. My grandmother had dementia, and I love her more than anything. And so because that hit so close to my heart, it's hard for me to like take that lightly. I actually really saw a man who it was elder abuse. He should not have been still president of anybody's country. He needs to go just retire and live out his golden years. Like, you're up there in age. Like, why would you want to be doing this job at such an old age? And I'm not even sure he wants to. You know, I felt like it was his handlers and people around him putting him there because they knew that African Americans, all they care about is symbolism for them. Like, the older generation, they think the younger ones are like that, but they know better. And so they're like, well, look, we just need to get someone who's attached to Obama in some way so that we can get a candidate that can beat Trump, is mainly what they're always worried about. They're always trying to fearmonger and worry about who we need to beat versus what we need to be doing for the American people. That's what's going to get you the votes. Focus on the fucking people that are voting. Ooh, Lord. Okay, so his June 27 showdown with Trump, age 78, was the death knell of his campaign. Oh, I didn't know Trump was younger than him. I thought they were the same age. Okay, so Biden's debate performance, which included proclaiming to have, quote-unquote, beat Medicare after looking down at his lectern for 10 seconds, having lost his train of thought, led to panic in the Democratic establishment. The liberal New York Times editorial board called on Biden to step aside as the presumptive Democratic nominee the day after the debate, calling the president admirable but the shadow of a great public servant. Yeah, it's like, this is embarrassing. Let go and, get out on top of things. Don't leave this sad sack of potatoes. Like, you were a politician for a very long time. You've done your service or whatever the hell it was. And, to some people who love you or looking up to you, like, give them that view, not me forgetting my words at the podium on national TV. So he understood that he needed to address long-standing public concerns about his mental acuity and that he needed to do so as soon as possible. The truth Mr. Biden needs to confront now is that he failed his own test, the Gray Lady concluded. I don't know what that is. Actor George Clooney, who hosted a $30 million Los Angeles fundraiser for Biden in June, also called on him to relinquish the nomination. It's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe Big Effing Deal Biden of 2010. Clooney wrote in a Times op-ed. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate. Biden maintained a day after his dismal performance that he had what it takes to continue as president. Folks, I give you my word as a Biden. I would not be running again if I didn't believe with all my heart and soul I could do this job, because quite frankly, the stakes are too high. And it's crazy because it was like just awful. Like, just to see him trying to get up there, and it was like late in the night. I think they kind of scrambled together and put together this this speaking event. I can't think of press conference, and he's just like, yeah, I can do it. And it's like, Biden, you just said the other day, like, this is past your bedtime. You need to go lay down and just stop. Just stop it. No one is convinced at all. Like, the charade is up, people. All the people behind him, you're full of crap. The charade is up. You should be, we know they're never going to be held accountable, but they should be arrested for elder abuse, because you're literally putting a man in charge of an entire country. You're putting all billions and millions of people in the lives, all of our lives, in his hands. And he's not capable of it. He's not mentally stable. He doesn't have the mental capacity to do that job. That's the most irresponsible thing ever. And it is criminal. It really is. Because it's just dangerous. And so now you have him, going up against Trump, who a lot of people are terrified of, which I'm not. But you have him going up against Trump. He cannot hold his own. And they created that monster. They created that mess. So, so Biden told these voters this in North Carolina, signaling that he has no intention of dropping out of the race. And I knew he was going. I really had a strong feeling that he would, because I knew I wasn't voting for him regardless. But the crazy thing is, I felt like he would, but I'm like, why are you like holding on to the very last minute? We don't have that kind of time. Like, the election is literally a few months away. We don't have enough time for you to be trying to hold on for dear life with white knuckled trying to hold on, to to this power. You are almost a centurion. Like, let it go. Jesus Christ. It's like, this is so weird to watch. And this is how all the boomers are. They're very self-centered and very much just like, it's all about me and I need to hold on to power. They get a little bit of power and they cannot let go, just like Jim Clyburn. This is why we're screaming for term limits. I don't think this has ever been an issue in U.S. history where people were not going, where Congress was like sitting in office till they died. You're not the Supreme Court judges, and even they need term limits. Like, and it's crazy the irony of Biden talking about giving the Supreme Court judges term limits, mainly because Trump chose all these conservative judges. Which, yes, I agree. Their asses shouldn't be up there forever either. Like, why are you sitting up here all day making laws for the entire country? And people claim the Supreme Court does not make laws. They do. I mean, that's pretty much what happened with Roe versus Wade. They overturned it, so now the laws changed. They can amend the laws. So, anyways, so they said before Biden, it appears that no sitting president has ever dropped out of a re-election race after formally declaring their candidacy, actively campaigning, and winning the required number of delegates needed for the nomination. Only a handful of incumbent presidents have opted not to seek a second term in the White House, including Lyndon B. Johnson, Harry S. Truman, Calvin Coolidge, Rutherford B. Hayes, James Buchanan, and James K. Polk. I shall not seek and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president, Johnson famously announced in March 1968, televised address after winning the New Hampshire primary, citing the Vietnam War and domestic turbulence. Johnson's exit came shortly after his Democratic primary challenger, Senator Eugene McCarthy, is Democratic in Minnesota, captured 42% of the vote to Johnson's 48% in the first presidential primary, and followed then Senator Robert F. Kennedy's Democrat of New York entrance into the race. Kennedy's June assassination led to incumbent Vice President Hubert Humphrey receiving the presidential nomination at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, a confab marked by riots. The 2024 Democratic National Convention, which begins August 19th, will also be held in Chicago. So let's jump right into these comments and see what people are talking about here. I'm sure people will have lots to say. So we have, just because Joe endorsed KH doesn't mean she will be the nominee. Another gaffe. I do commend Joe for dropping out, although he should have done it months ago. He should also resign immediately and get completely out of the way. He doesn't need to speak to the nation. The damn big money donors dried up. That's what the final blow was. Good riddance. That's what I think too. So much for riding with Biden. He was aptly named He's been biding his time for years. Ride or die ops. Good, the hair sniffing is finally over. Get some rest, Ojo. We'll get on just fine. No one's indispensable. What is in his parachute? Exactly. They will pardon Hunter. Crooked Joe's main. So that people were wondering, like, what is he going to get out of this for stepping down? Because they always get rewarded for stuff that they should be doing anyway. They think he's going to be pardoning Hunter, or maybe they're wondering, like, why is he waiting around? Maybe because he wants to pardon Hunter. Crooked Joe's made progress. Biden is delusional. The country is on the brink of ruination. If we don't do it 180 and fast, Dems must have given him a financial offer he couldn't pass up. If they pick Harris, Trump will have no contest and will win in a landslide. They can't pick anyone, or they're not supposed to. You never know with these idiots. She's done nothing as a VP except cackle and giggle and talk in word salads. So who with any common sense thinks she has what it takes to be POTUS? Trump bans 2024. The next person saying, be best inch is something interest. Anyway, okay, so I guess he's making fun of Biden for something he said. Admittedly, I'm now looking forward to all the old Biden supporters to put their spin on this, rationalizing why this is now a good idea that this spineless, dementia-ridden guy is no longer fit. The left Biden or no one. Now the Dem voters have zero choice in the matter, and the Dem elite will choose who they want. This all from the party who is all about democracy. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. It's like we didn't choose him to begin with. We didn't have a say whether he drops out of the race now. It's always about money and race. So keep in mind, no matter who the Dems run in his place, it is the policies that are destroying America. Facts. The radical Biden admin has destroyed this nation in less than 3 years through their destructive policies. No matter who the Dems pick, it will be the same policies that have opened our borders wide, 20 million unvetted potential criminals and terrorists and going strong, sent inflation skyrocketing, food, gas, electric, and rent are over 50% higher, put DEI insanity before merit. I don't know how that happened. Why do they talk about DEI? How is that a problem? What was the DEI? Where was the DEI at? Like, do we have a term for all? Is it KKK? Why there's all these white people everywhere that are unqualified as fuck? Like Biden himself, he shouldn't even been up there. Trump is getting assassinated by people of his own party. Like, what are you talking about right now? We have plenty of KKK positions all around America, all across America, everywhere. You've been getting chosen time and time again for centuries because you're white. Just because you're white. You are mediocre. Half of you cannot think yourselves out of a paper bag. You're completely ignorant and stupid. And you somehow are running this country. And you have the nerve to fix your face and talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So basically, the few people who are not white, they're trying to find a little few positions for them here and there, but it's always going to be under whitey. And they're still bitching about it. They're not going to be happy until they're in control of everything, and it's fucking sickening. And I won't allow it, to be honest. I don't think any black people that are younger than boomers are going to allow that to ever happen again. You had your moment for 500 fucking centuries. Your moment's up. Your time is up. So they can cry all over the place about DI or whatever. The bottom line is we built this country. We're not letting it go, and we will fight for it. So this is a pretty awesome guy. I've watched him running in his term. I don't think he's even going for a second term, even though he's eligible to do it. Because I guess he said he just came in to do a certain job and he's going to leave. And I'm like, no. But anyways, or that may be someone else I'm thinking about. But let me read this because I have to make sure. So U.S. Representative Mark V.C. calls for Biden to step aside. He's the second Texan and first member of the Congressional Black Caucus to openly call for Biden to withdraw. And that like literally just happened. Like I just saw that article right before I saw that Biden was dropping out. So that's really crazy. And you all don't know how big of a deal that is because black people don't really ever speak out like we should. And for him to break ranks and tell Biden, another Democrat, to step down, that could have been basically sealing his fate as ever being reelected again. And he did it. So I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. He went against the grain, which is what millennials do. And he told Biden to get out of the way, and Biden's gone, and I'm happy. So U.S. Representative Mark Vasey, Democrat of Fort Worth, and 3 other congressional Democrats called on President Joe Biden to pass the torch and step aside as his party's nominee. Fellow Democratic reps Jared Huffman of California, Chuy Garcia of Illinois, and Mark Pocan joined VC in a joint statement Friday morning. VC is now the second Democrat from Texas to call on Biden to withdraw after Representative Lloyd Doggett of Austin. We must face the reality that widespread public concerns about your age and fitness are jeopardizing what should be a winning campaign. The statement reads, "We believe the most irresponsible and patriotic thing you can do at this moment is to step aside as our nominee while continuing to lead our party from the White House." In their statement, the members mentioned a deep and talented bench of young leaders. So the members mentioned in their statement a deep and talented bench of young leaders led by Vice President Kamala Harris, but stopped short of explicitly endorsing Harris as Biden's replacement. Yeah, because they know no one wants her either. VC is notably the first member of the Congressional Black Caucus to make this call publicly. Other members of the caucus, including Representative Jasmine Crockett of Dallas and Al Green of Houston, have been among Biden's most steadfast supporters. Of course they are. They're boomers, and they're kissing ass like they've done for so many decades that has completely ran the Black community into the fucking ground with their lies and their deceit and their selfishness and their stupidity. So Doggett was the first member of Congress to come out publicly against Biden. Roughly 24 other House Democrats and 3 U.S. senators have issued similar public statements in the 2 weeks since the president's disastrous debate in June. VC's statement came amid a particularly turbulent period of the race, just a day after the Republican National Convention adjourned and a week out from an attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, who accepted the nomination on Friday. Democrats have grown increasingly worried as Biden continues to slip in the polls, while the attempt on Trump's life has locked in further support for the Republican this November. And another thing is, people are acting like they're so fearful of Trump winning. That's another reason people are calling Biden to step down. It was really detrimental. If you want to have a real candidate to go up against Trump, you have to get rid of Biden. He can't be the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. It's just, they already knew he wasn't going to win any kind of debate anywhere. And there was another one coming up soon. So they had to get him out of the way. Mia Ehrenberg, a spokesperson for the Biden campaign, provided a statement that said all Democrats share the same goal. While the majority of the caucus and the diverse base of the party continues to stand with the president and his historic record of delivering for their communities, we're clear-eyed that the urgency and stakes of beating Donald Trump means others feel differently, the statement read, and he didn't deliver for Black communities. I have to just make sure that's known and that fact is stated. VC, a moderate who has served more than a decade in Congress, had previously been one of the few Texas Democrats to not take an open position on Biden's candidacy, instead warning other members to chill a little bit immediately after the debate. He later told reporters, okay, so I was thinking about another Black Texan, I believe it was like the mayor, who was also pretty awesome. He later told reporters that representatives from battleground districts should feel free to come out against Biden if it would help them get reelected. But what I said this morning and expressed to my colleagues, particularly from members on the front line, is that I think they need to do whatever it is they need to do in order to come back and be reelected. And so if they need to, distance themselves, then that's what they need to do, VC said a week after the debate. So again, they're thinking more about themselves as well when they're coming out and doing this. And it's like, is it really for the American people? Always kind of a gray area up in the air somewhere. We're not really sure. So all 4 Democrats in Friday's statement, however, come from safe Democratic seats. VC won re-election in 2022 with 72% of the vote. VC's comments mean just 3 Democrats from Texas have yet to take a public position. Representatives Henry Cuellar of Laredo, Joaquin Castro of San Antonio, and Colin Allred of Dallas punted on the question as he focuses on a tough race against Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas. 8 other Democrats from Texas have made public comments of support of Biden. And I think they probably did that because their constituents are old Black people or someone who was just staunch. They know they're staunch supporters of Biden. So they knew if they spoke out, they probably would not be getting reelected. But I wonder, side note here. So here's my commentary. But I wonder how these representatives of Congress and these politicians feel now that Biden has dropped out and they were supporting someone that we all knew was not mentally capable of ever having been president, let alone running for president for a second term. I wonder how their constituents are looking at them now. Like, can they trust their judgment when he came forward and said, oh yeah, we support you, run again, you're the guy for the job. Especially, we all know he wouldn't stand a chance against Trump the second time. So did these people watch the debate? Like, these are the types of voters that I'm wondering, do they pay any kind of attention to what the policies are, to what is happening within the political landscape during the election years. Like, do they pay any attention, or do they just go to the polls and vote blue no matter who? That's really what I'm thinking. And I'm happy that there's always an end to everything. I feel like the boomers have ran this country into the ground with their overspending and their thoughtless. They don't think about anyone but themselves, just a lot of thoughtlessness and their defiance. A lot of narcissism there. It's like they just don't have any self-awareness to say like, wow, we really screwed up. Let's try to like do the right thing for the future generations coming up behind us. I just have never seen that type of humility. I've maybe seen it maybe one or two boomers that have like all the boomers. Majority of them are fighting with us on Twitter, online, and standing by their poor voting choices over the decades when we were children up to now. And I just see maybe a few boomers who are, being normal and having intelligence and common sense and saying, we really fucked up. I'm no longer voting for Democrats. They do nothing for the Black community. The rest of them are just, including my parents, are just rank and file, continuing to support the Democrats, voting blue no matter who, completely clueless no matter how much I try to educate them. So there's no excuse. They literally at this point just holding on to power and pride before the fall. So thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me what you all think about Biden jumping out of the race. Is it a good thing? Are you for it? Did you expect it? Are you even voting for the Democratic Party at this point? Yeah. So I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.